Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to be doing a foundation review, and yes, I know I've been doing a lot of these, but there are so many foundations that are coming out as of late that I feel like I need to put a lot of them to the test. And today's product comes from a brand that I tend to have a love-hate relationship with. Some of the products from Smashbox work really well for me, and then others fall flatter than cardboard, like they're bad. Nevertheless, when they came out with this foundation here, I got really excited because I haven't tried a foundation from Smashbox in a long time. I used to love their full coverage concealer. I used to wear that all the time. It was a little bit on the heavy side, but when you needed to cover up some blemishes or redness, dark circles under your eyes, that concealer did magic. I guess the long and the short of this introduction is that I'm reviewing this foundation from Smashbox today. This is the Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-Hour Wear Foundation. So if you're interested in hearing what I have to say about this foundation, make sure you keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. This is not going to be a first impressions video. I have been wearing this foundation for the last 2 weeks and I've gotten to know it quite well, and I do have some opinions formed, but I did want to pop on here so I can show you guys how to best apply this foundation, especially if you have skin like mine. So I do have oily skin, I struggle with texture, I have enlarged pores, I have rosacea in this area here, I do have acne scarring, obviously I have acne. There's just a lot going on. So a lot of foundations tend not to work for me because I have a lot of different issues that I'm dealing with, but there are a lot out there as well that also give me really great results. Before I jump into the application, I just want to give you a little bit of information about this particular foundation. And I'm going to look down at my phone for this because I've got all of the information from the Sephora website. This foundation does retail for 48 Canadian dollars and it is a Sephora exclusive. It does come in 40 shades, which I thought was pretty cool. Although it looks like the deep dark category could probably use maybe a little more love, but I'd say 40 shades is actually not too bad. Personally, I'm in the shade 2.12, which is light with a neutral undertone. It's typically what I go for in most foundation brands. So this foundation here is supposed to be a weightless 24-hour wear full coverage foundation that's supposed to help control oil and shine. It's supposed to be waterproof, sweat-proof, and it won't look cakey or cause blemishes. The finish is matte. It is a liquid formula and it's good for all skin types. The Sephora website does highlight some ingredients in here. It does come with kaolin clay as well as bamboo powder, which is there to help control shine and oil. And kaolin clay is actually in the Tatcha Satin Skin Mist Spray, which I absolutely love, and I know that's an ingredient that works really well with my skin, so I was very happy to see that in this foundation. There's also hyaluronic acid, which is supposed to hydrate your skin, and then there's vitamin E, which is supposed to protect your skin against environmental aggressors. The foundation does come in a squeezy tube container, and when you twist off the cap, it is one of these like squeeze out foundations. The foundation has a shelf life of 24 months. It is made in Belgium and it contains 1 fluid ounce of product. Let's move on to the application of this foundation. I don't have any primer on right now, but I am going to be using my Dior Backstage primer. This is the one that I have been loving very, very much for the last little while. I wear it underneath all of my foundations, and with all of the trial runs that I've done of this particular foundation, this is the primer that I've used underneath it, and I know that it works. And I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze a little bit of this foundation onto the back of my hand. And when I say a little bit of foundation, I mean just a little bit of foundation. That is all I'm gonna take, and I think even that might be a little too much because this foundation has a lot of coverage and a lot of pigment. It's also extremely thick. You can see that this foundation is not moving. And when I first started to apply this foundation, I used it a couple of times as is, so with no added product to it. And I found it actually very difficult to wear because it would grab onto all of my dry patches. It would accentuate my texture. It just did not look good on my skin. And then I thought to myself, how can I dilute the foundation a little bit, maybe add some extra hydration so that there's a little more slip and that it might not enhance any of the issues that I typically deal with on my face. And so I went ahead and got myself this facial oil here from e.l.f. This is the Nourishing one in particular. And what I do is I take just a little bit, couple of drops, even that might be a little too much, onto the back of my hand. And then with a clean beauty blender, I just go ahead and I mix everything together. And then I just basically apply this to my face. You guys can already see how crazy this coverage is. There is my face fully covered. The foundation, I believe, is as blended as it can be, and thankfully that oil really helped hydrate the foundation even more than what it already consists of in terms of hydration. And it applied, I think, relatively nicely to my skin, even though I do see it settling into some of my fine lines, and it almost just kind of sits on top of my skin a little bit. I'm gonna zoom you in a little bit more so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully you guys can see it there on my cheek where it's all just kind of sitting on top of my skin, even though it has done, I think, a really good job of covering up all of my redness, all of the blemishes that I had on my face. I mean, I feel good. I think I look good. Once I powder everything down, it's definitely gonna look a lot better than what you're seeing right now. Hopefully here you guys can really see how the foundation is sitting. It is a bit of a cakey foundation, even though when it's actually applied and on your face, it doesn't feel like you have anything on. It does feel relatively weightless. It also left my skin with a really nice matte finish, but not so matte that it looks dehydrated and super dry. It just looks natural. I am now gonna pop off camera to finish the rest of my face, and I will be right back. And I am back. The rest of my face is now on, and I think for the most part, everything went on relatively smoothly. I did notice as soon as I started applying my powder, it just went ahead and accentuated a lot of the texture and dry patches that I have on my skin. But once I sprayed everything down with my setting spray, I did use the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist because it is a little more hydrating. And I felt like that melted the powder into my skin and things started to look a little bit better. Personally, I know this foundation is going to wear a lot better as the natural oils in my face start to come through, and throughout the rest of the day, I know things will settle. Right now, I am looking quite matte, although I feel like I have a little bit of a glow. Nevertheless, let me bring you guys in a little bit closer so you can see what I'm seeing. There is my cheek, and hopefully you guys can see how the foundation is just sort of sitting on top of my skin. It hasn't quite melted in. It needs the natural oils of my face to come through. Same thing for the center part of my face, my nose, like here around my nostrils, the foundation just hasn't sat very well. And then on the other side, my cheek is looking the same. Forehead is even looking a little, not great, if you know what I'm saying. But like I said, I know this foundation needs a little bit of extra time to really sink in and mix with the natural oils on my face before it can settle and look really nice. I do have some things that need to get done today, so I am gonna go ahead and get on with the rest of my day, but I will be back at the end of the night to do a final check-in so you guys can see how how the foundation has worn, and then I can also give you my full thoughts and final review of this particular product. So I will see you in just a second. And I am back for the final check-in of the night. It has been 7 hours since I have put on this foundation, and we're not looking so hot today. I have not touched up at all, and my nose in particular is looking righteous, and I really did hold back from doing anything to my face because I wanted to make sure that I could capture everything accurately for you on camera. So let's start off with my forehead, which, to be honest with you, it just looks cakey. Like the makeup is just sitting on my forehead, especially here. It has settled into my fine lines. As you can tell, this foundation is not transfer proof. I have it all over my finger now. You can probably see the mark across my forehead too. The most improved area on my face is my cheek. The foundation has sort of merged in with the natural oils of my skin, and I think it smoothed out quite nicely. If we look at my nose, which is probably the worst area on my face, where my glasses pads sit, there is so much shifting. You can also see there's patches of foundation that are just randomly missing, which is just a little bit weird for me. I wasn't really touching my nose for most of the day, and somehow this happened. My upper lip, I am really not happy with. It just looks like the foundation has caked on top. And then if we move over to my other cheek, it's very similar to the other side, where I feel like everything has merged nicely over here. While I have you guys zoomed in relatively close, I am just gonna grab my beauty blender and kind of dab away and sort of reset my foundation. I'm not extremely oily. You guys can see, I think this foundation really does do a great job of controlling oils throughout the day. I don't think I got overly shiny. There is transferring if you're gonna be touching your face, or sometimes if you're not gonna be touching your face like today. And as you can see, now that I have reset the foundation with my beauty blender, I feel like it is sitting a lot better on my skin. I was able to even out the nastiness that was going on around my nose. I think my cheeks are looking really good now. My upper lip still looks cakey, like, especially here. I don't know what that is. It just looks really bad. When Smashbox says this is full coverage, they mean this is full coverage. As you guys saw when I initially applied this to my face, it covered up all of my redness. There were no issues with that. It is a very thick foundation though, so if you have any texture, any fine lines, any dryness, rough patches, whatever it be on your skin, this is gonna grab all of that. And you guys saw, for me, the best application is when I use an oil. If I use this on its own, it is a really tough foundation for me to wear and for my face to look really good. Sometimes I even take this foundation and dilute it with something else, like my Maybelline foundation. And that's what I would really say, is to consider mixing this foundation with another foundation, because with my experience, I think this performs a lot better when it's got another foundation formula infused in it. The foundation does blend out relatively easily. I always use my beauty blender, and I think that is the best application method. I did try a brush and I just got too many streaks. I still had to go back in with my sponge to fix things up. So I would say stick with a sponge if you are working with this particular product. The foundation does give you a matte finish, which I always appreciate as somebody who does have an oily skin type. If you are on the dry side, you are definitely going to want a very hydrating primer to work with. You may want to do the same thing that I did and add a facial oil just to give it a little more slip, a little more hydration. Overall, I really like the finish of this foundation. I think it is matte, but not so matte that you don't have some luminosity peeking through. So I definitely appreciate the finish of this product. When it comes to wear time, I think you can get comfortably anywhere between 3 to 4 hours of perfect wear with this foundation, where it's not gonna budge, it's not gonna give you a hard time, you're not gonna be oily whatsoever. It's gonna look really good on your skin. But after the 4 hour hour mark, at least in my experience, I can't speak for everybody, that's when things start to go a little bit sideways, and that's where the foundation needs a little bit of TLC. And finally, my overall thoughts on this foundation, I would say it's good to cover up redness, but it's not one that I think I want to be gravitating towards all the time or very much at all, just because of how much it sits on top of my skin. And I think that's my biggest complaint with this foundation, is that it doesn't seem to penetrate through like the Pat McGrath foundation does. I don't get that same scaliness that you guys saw earlier, or the catching on dry patches, the accentuation of my texture. Pat McGrath foundation does not give me that. Neither does my Maybelline. I'm not sure what it is in the formula, but it does leave my skin not looking as perfect as I would want it. I would definitely not recommend this foundation for anybody who has a dry skin. I think it would just drive you mad throughout the day because it doesn't give you enough hydration, enough luminosity, and it'll probably accentuate a lot of your dry patches. If you have combination or oily skin, I think it's definitely worth giving a whirl. If you have a normal skin, then I would say give it a whirl. With normal skin, you can try just about anything. And see how this works for you. If anybody watching out there has texture with their skin or has any of the same issues that I outlined earlier in the video as I do, then this foundation might be a pass for you. I think the coverage of it is great, so it must have a lot of pigment in it, but there is something in the formula that I feel needs to be worked out so that it can look a little bit smoother on skin. And that's gonna do it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you know the drill. Give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. If you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can always do that by following me on all of my social media channels. I don't know why I got all game show host there on you, but I will link all of the pertinent information in the description box below. And as always, I want to hear from you. Let me know what you guys think of this foundation. If you've had a chance to try it, let me know what your experience was with it. If you haven't had a chance to try it yet, then definitely let me know how you think my wear test went here on camera. And also let me know if it is a foundation you want to try. Thank you again so much for watching, everyone. I hope you are having an amazing day no matter where you are in the world. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!